Today we're going to be making one of my specialties, pizza. So when you're making pizza at home, the first thing you're going to want to do is purchase one of these pizza stones. You're going to preheat this, and it's going to be just like having your own wood-burning pizza oven. So for the flour today, we're going to be using an all-purpose flour. So we've got our flour in the bowl. We're going to add 3/4 of a cup of water, and then we're going to do 2 pinches of salt. Once it's come together a little bit, we're going to move it onto the surface and we're going to start to knead it. So the yeast is in, and if it starts to look a little bit runny like this, just add a little bit more flour. So I'm going to just add in a little bit more. I like to make my doughs the night before and let them rest in the fridge overnight. I find it's just a lot easier to roll out the next day once it's had a good rest in the fridge. So when this dough starts to come together, you can see it sticking to the sides of the bowl. You know you're on the right track. We're going to lightly dust our cutting board so that our dough doesn't stick to our cutting board. And then we're going to transfer. Make sure you get everything off of that spoon. So this part is really, really important. What you want to do is you want to work the dough by using the palm of your hand. And what you're doing is you're pressing on the dough and you're kind of moving it away from you, and then you're folding it back onto itself. At the same time, you're going to do a little bit of a quarter turn. I'm going to knead this dough for about 5 to 8 minutes. A little bit longer is better than too short. And once it comes into a ball, you're going to use the insides of your hands here, and you're just going to rotate it into a nice, really tight little ball. And there you go. This is going to go in the fridge now and rest for at least 2 hours, but the longer the better. So now that our dough is resting in the fridge, we're going to move on to the toppings, starting with the tomato sauce. So I like using whole plum Roma tomatoes, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually strain out the liquid, and we're only going to use the actual tomato part. And we're just going to use the whole tomatoes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to crunch these up with a fork. So it's more of a chunky feel. If you want to do more of a smooth tomato sauce, then you can just go ahead and put that in the blender. It still works really, really well. So this is just going to get like roughly very rustic, kind of squished up. That's going to be your tomato sauce. Now for the cheese. This is my favorite part. We're going to be using a combination of these 3 cheeses. The main cheese is going to be a really simple mozzarella, which is what I have right here. And we're not going to shred it. We're actually going to slice it and make it into these rectangular shapes. When this melts, it's going to be really, really nice and creamy. Now we've got these 2 really special cheeses. This is a buffalo mozzarella that is from Italy. It comes in its own liquid. It's a brine. So we're going to drain that out. And we're just going to use the cheese. It's a really, really nice, soft mozzarella. It's very sweet and creamy and slightly salty. So that's why we're going to pair it with the other mozzarella. So it comes in this big ball, and what we're going to do is we're going to tear it. We're going to do the same with the fior di latte. They're virtually the same cheese. They're made in the same way. It's just this one's made with buffalo's milk, and this one is made with cow's milk. So they do look very similar, but the one big difference is the texture. So you can see this cheese is a lot firmer. I'm only going to do half of this ball. So these are our cheeses. They're all ready. What I'm going to do with those tomatoes is I'm just going to quarter the big ones and slice the little ones just in half. So if it's this size, that's just going to go in half. That's perfect. Now that's going to go to the side. And then we're going to get our dough. This is my favorite part. I love stretching the pizza dough. And this has been resting for 2 hours, so it's going to be really, really easy to stretch. We're going to dust our work surface again. So we're going to do that. You know, you can use a rolling pin if you'd like. I don't recommend it. It just tastes a lot better when it's rolled out by hand. So we're going to be using the tips of our fingers, just gently pressing. Start along the edges, work your way to the center, moving it from side to side so that you make sure it's not sticking to the counter. When it gets to this stage, I like to bring it up and toss it a little bit, just to give it that final stretch. The number one tip for making the perfect pizza dough is letting it rest. If you don't let it rest, what it will do is just shrink right back. Now it's time to put it all together. So when we're assembling our pizza, it's easiest if you do it on your pizza paddle first instead of assembling it and then trying to put it on the paddle. So we're gonna flour this also. And then we're gonna go in with our tomato sauce. We're gonna make a nice even layer. I like to leave just a little room for the crust. That looks good. We're gonna do cheese next. Our buffalo mozzarella and our fior di latte. And then our nice and colorful heirloom tomatoes. You could use any type of vegetable. Zucchini works really, really nice. Eggplant is amazing. The options are endless. Before you put it in the oven, you want to give it a little shake. Make sure it's not sticking anywhere. So this is a little tricky, but you want to get the pizza right onto the pizza stone. Okay, so this pizza's been in here for about 12 minutes and it looks perfect. Check it out. Lastly, we're gonna garnish with some fresh basil. And you're done. Really, really nice.